I'm like, I would be doing her a favor to get fired from teaching. It's a thankless job. I've asked my sister, I was like, can I just pay you to not be a teacher? Because I want you to be happy. But she seems to actually like it. So
does she?
I think there were years where she didn't like it, but now she actually likes it for all the right reasons.
Towards me 3. Yep. You can back just a touch. Towards me a little bit. Perfect.
Yeah. If she likes it coming out of the past few years, that's impressive.
I know. She quit, and then I talked her into quitting. I was like, you hate this job. I'll help you start an Etsy business. You can work for me. We'll find something, get out of this. And then as soon as she quit, she was like, what am I doing? And she went back and they were like, yeah, please come back. She kind of had to, it was embarrassing, but I was proud of her for I always do that where I quit something and then I change my mind and I go, I want to go back. And I think that so many times people don't quit, they quit something that they shouldn't have, relationship, whatever. And you can't get back with your ex. It's you can always go back to a job. Try to quit it, see what happens.
Yeah.
And if it's meant to be, you can come, they'll want you back. And if you can't, then you'll be forced to find something else. But I was proud of her for doing it. But then she went back. But I think she likes it now.
What does she teach?
Spanish.
Oh, really?
Which is truly, I looked it up. And it's maybe one of the most, foreign language in high schools is completely worthless. It's more worthless than gym in terms of what students do with it afterwards.
Yeah, but that's because that's
their time could be better spent doing something else. Is what everything says.
Utilize it. I mean, Spanish is
but
no
a
one
language
does. Okay.
But so few go on to pursue at fields it's kind of not.
I took Spanish from 7th grade through first
better than
semester
German.
sophomore year of college, and I don't know anything.
Same with French until sophomore year, and I'm just now getting back into it.
Yeah, perfect. Can you do that one more time?
That was three more times.
And you got it.
Okay, so
Nailed it.
I just heard, yeah. Okay.
Cameras are rolling, audio's rolling, everything's good.
Wait, can you do something with that side of her face?
Okay, that's enough. No, none of that. What are you, Blake Griffin? Let's do this. Okay, here we are. All right. Interview
good?
juice, yeah.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I was going to start talking about the vocal surgery stuff. Looks
Great.
like you're trying not to crack a smile.
I just wonder, I'm interested to see how this all works.
Yeah.
You're a pro at this. This is kind of fascinating.
We'll find out.
I just watched Jerry Maguire 2 nights ago. I couldn't sleep. And I realized you're the guy in Jerry Maguire that makes everyone cry. I was watching it and he was
Roy Firestone.
Yeah, I don't know who that giant man was, but I remember that from when I saw it the first time, he was such a part of that movie. And then in the end, Cuba Gooding Jr. ends up, he makes fun of people that go on the show and cry. He's like, they always cry. And then at the end, he's like, Jerry, I love you. And I was like, that's Graham. That's how I described you to my parents. I was like, he's the guy in Jerry Maguire that makes people cry.
Wait, so is that why your mom decided against?
My mom is just, my mom is someone who doesn't like to be on camera unless she knows what's gonna go down. I mean, getting her to do my reality show I had to threaten her, so.
All right, so tell about Retreat Gastropub.
Retreat Gastropub?
Yeah. I heard that was where
I have
that's
no idea what that
responsible
is.
for The Voice.
Retreat I have no idea what you're talking about.
Producers for your reality show took you out to dinner there.
Oh yeah, thank you. I went to dinner with my parents and a bunch of people from my reality show. They were in town shooting a different show, and we went to a loud restaurant for dinner, and I ended up talking too much, and my dad at one point was like, your voice is going, and at the time I was singing a lot that week, and it was important for me to be able to sing because I was doing these voice lessons and I wanted it to sound as good. So I was like, oh, you're right, I gotta stop talking. And then as soon as he said it, I was like, something happened. So there's a bit I do on stage right now where I talk about how, because I use spray tan stuff to spray my legs, because getting a spray tan every couple weeks, I have a bit right now about getting spray tans and how I inhale all of this stuff so much that I bet in like 20 years you're gonna see me on TV being like, if you were a hot girl on TV between the, and I do that voice, and that voice has made my voice sound like I have mesothelioma from, my joke is tan lung, and then it's me and Snooki being like, you are entitled to a class action settlement. But doing those voices will just throw it off, and I'll choke on some food or something. Like, my voice has always been very fragile, and I talk too much, I talk too fast. And because I have damage on my vocal cords, I talk in a way that is constantly straining. My throat chakra is off, I've been told by people who are full of shit. All the things that could be wrong in this area are. And yeah, so after that dinner, I just felt it like go. And then I was with my voice teacher, because I'm trying to learn how to sing. And she was like, it sounds like there's something on your cords. So she texted a doctor at Cedars-Sinai. I was in LA. I'm in there that afternoon, had a scope down my throat, and she was like, you've hemorrhaged. So it happened that night, because afterwards they saw it's like all bruised on one side of my vocal cords. My vocal cords looks like, you're in at the OBGYN. I mean, it looks like vaginal, but that's what your vocal cords look like, and it looked like it's been through some stuff, She just said you have a lot of trauma, was the word, which it really resonated with me, because I just feel that I do carry trauma in my life. It's like not that bad, but like I do store my feelings somewhere, and I think it gets stored in here. And my therapist has noticed that whenever I'm talking about something that I'm like scared to, like whenever I do this, she's like, you're holding something back, you're scared if something's going on. So she finds me doing this a lot, and she goes, okay, what is going on here? Because I do this a lot when I maybe I'm not telling the truth about something, or maybe I'm having to not tell everything that's going on in my life. Like, I'm holding something back, which, that's why I do comedy, is so I don't hold things back. But I think in my personal life, sometimes I still do. I don't know. So,
you can be more open on stage or in interviews than you can
I can be more open like
this
than an intimate setting. I mean, I'm open to being that open there, but like an audience or you, like, if you don't like what you hear, it's not gonna affect my day-to-day life. Like, I'm not gonna see you every day. Or audiences, like, if they don't like it, I don't see that they don't like it. And you're not gonna tell me you don't like it, because you're not like a loved one who's gonna be like, that's up. Like, you're gonna be nice about it. So I feel like more comfortable in settings where people are like, there's a performative aspect too. If you're performing, people can always go, oh, she's just joking. And they give you the benefit of the doubt. But if you're in an intimate setting, sharing things, dark thoughts, insecurities, people kind of go, really? Like, that's the difference between, doing a bit on stage and doing one on a podcast. I've gotten into trouble in relationships before where I've said something on a podcast and
a lot of trouble, right?
Yeah, like, it's not been good. Like, for me, I've said things on podcasts that I said to be entertaining. Yeah, sorry. I've said things on podcasts because, the conversation lulled, and I'm like, okay, let me just throw out this really titillating fact about my life that involves someone else that probably wouldn't want this out there, but I'm also like, oh, it's my side of it, it's fine. And then I say it, and I think it's okay because, my boyfriend in particular is incredible in that he has given me complete carte blanche to talk about anything I want on stage, about our relationship, about him. Literally, he's like, if it's funny, anything you want. Which you would think, oh, of course he does that. That's rare to really have someone say, as long as it's funny, you can say it. But then when it moves to podcasts, that's where I've had a problem, because podcasts are more sincere. And he, like most people, think when she says it on stage, maybe she's joking. There's always that, like, it's a performance, but on a podcast, it's more conversational. It's like, no, this is the truth. I mean, even I met Larry David not too long ago, and he saw my act first. And I was talking about living with my parents during the pandemic in my act. And then I ran into him weeks later, and I referenced, like, yeah, and I lived at home with my parents. And he goes, wait, that was real? And I was like, oh, even Larry David thinks I was not being, like, was just saying a joke for the sake of it. And, he's the funniest person alive. So my boyfriend's right in that people interpret things that I say on stage differently about him than they would in a podcast, because you can just go, oh, it's stand-up, it's for the joke. But what people don't know is that most of my stand-up, unless it's like so over the top, like I'm, jerking off my dog or something, like that's going to be obviously farcical. I don't even know if that's the definition of what that is. Like, that's so outlandish, it's a joke. But most of what I say on stage is pretty based in reality.
All right, so back to the
throat thing.
Throat thing.
So I go to the doctor.
Right, and you realize, oh, I have to do something about this.
I knew already, because when I was doing my serious show in New York before the pandemic, 4 days a week, I was losing my voice a lot. And so I went to an ENT there, and I remember him just being like, listen, you're probably gonna need surgery eventually. It's not urgent, but you should go to physical therapy for it. So I was going to see a physical therapist for it, and then COVID hit, I moved back home to St. Louis, and I just forgot about it. And I kind of, the pace of my schedule slowed down, so my voice I wasn't losing it as much. I also looked into this thing called the Alexander technique that teaches you how to like breathe and hold yourself when you talk so that you don't strain as much. So I don't lose my voice anymore on stage, but when I ventured into wanting to start singing, that's where I see the limitations. Like, I could only sing by myself in my living room for an hour before I start sounding horrible and like can't hit any notes. And it's just like, well, something's got to be done. So that's when I was, at this voice lesson, and she sent me to this doctor. That doctor sent me to another doctor, and all of a sudden surgery was on the table. And I was like, let's do it, because I want to be able to sing, first of all, but the idea of not being able to talk for 3 weeks, which is part of the recovery, is honestly probably half the reason I'm doing it. Like,
You really think you can go 3 weeks without talking?
I think it's going to be like a psychedelic trip, just being in my head and not being able to communicate in the way I normally am. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm going to love it, because people think I do love to talk, obviously. It's what I do for a living, but I need a break, and I never get a break ever, because even if I take a break from the road, oh, well, you can still do podcasts and Zoom. Okay, I don't want to do podcasts anymore. Okay, well, then go on the road. Or if you're not going to do the road or podcasts, then go film a TV show. Like, there's always something, and it's always reliant on my voice. And now I'm pulling an Ariel, Little Mermaid style, and taking away the one thing that, keeps me underwater. And so I get to go, it's going to be awesome. I don't think I've shut up since, I was quiet in high school and stuff, but I've never really not talked. Who doesn't talk for 3 weeks?
Your voice is going to be higher once this is done, right?
And that did resonate with me, because I've always felt a little insecure about my voice. I like it.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've always had a kind of gravelly voice. My mom had from a young age too. They used to call her Gravel Gertie, was her nickname, because she had this gravelly voice as a young girl. And I think I picked it up either from nature or nurture. Sometimes things with your voice, you just accents. You learn how to talk that way. So I think I probably just was emulating my mom, and so I sound I can do my mom pretty well, a little husky. But I've always had a husky voice, and because I wanted to be a singer, I was in high school, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. My surgeon has operated on all of the best people. You go to his office, it looks like a Planet Hollywood with all of the signed pictures.
From Adele and Steven Tyler to...
I don't even know who...
Joe Buck, Dick Vitale.
When I was there, I saw John Mayer's picture on the wall. So I DM'd John and was just like, hey, I'm starting to get nervous about not talking. Do you have any tips? What would you tell someone about to do this? And he was just like, let me just call you real quick. He called me and he was just like, boom, 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 boom. He just gave me all the steps. So he's like, buy an iPad, get a stand for it, because he was like, notepads don't work, your phone doesn't work, get a Bluetooth keyboard, get a stand for your iPad, face it away from you, you can go to dinner with people and just type. So I think I'm gonna have a pretty okay social life, and I type really fast anyway from days of being on AIM, waiting for my crushes to show up. So I think I'll probably be able to talk just about as fast as I do now.
And it is only three weeks, which, it's not the end of the
Yeah, I know, it's almost not long enough. I got, John was like, oh, mine was a year. I'm like, oh, I wanna do that. I would be devastated to lose the ability to talk, but there's also something I think I'm missing out on learning about myself or some piece of life I'm not getting to live because I do talk too much and I'm annoying and I need to shut the up. But my point is, my voice, my first Tonight Show set, my first joke was, I know my voice is really husky. I like to say it's big boned. And so that was like my first joke was like, I gotta acknowledge my voice out of the gate. And the first time I ever got recognized off that set, because I thought that set was gonna change my life. I was 24, I got the Tonight Show, I was broke, living in LA. This was 2009, this was Jay Leno before he left the first time, before Conan. And so it was like a really heyday of it was a big moment. They called me the day of, I was hungover. They had approved me to do a set on TV 2 years, one and a half to 2 years before that. And so I was just waiting around for that call and I had given up hope because I'm like, I know they approved the set, which means they watch you do a set. They come to the club, the bookers for the Tonight Show come to the club, they watch your set, they give you notes and they go, that third joke, not so great, maybe a different closer. Then you schedule with them, come see me here. Months later, they come see you. Well then, we didn't like what you, so you get notes. Finally, the set was perfect. And they go, that's the one. And I'm like, yes, I'm doing the Tonight Show. And then I waited and waited and waited. And it just felt like it wasn't happening. So
when you check in, what do they say?
I would never check in.
Oh,
That's the thing,
wouldn't?
Graham. I don't,
if
someone doesn't want me,
right?
I'm not gonna push it on you. At this point, I know I'm talented enough and that I can be good enough on shows that I'm like, you should have me. Like I'll be the squeaky wheel that my dad has always told me to be. But at that stage in my career, I wasn't hungry in that way to like get things. I secretly thought I probably didn't deserve it. I was kind of doing stand-up, bailing a lot on stand-up. I had my eating disorder was out of control. Like I was just not doing well. I was temping, but I would get fired from temp jobs. Like I would get consistently fired from temp jobs where I had one more day to do the job and they're like, we'd rather train someone else. Like that's how bad you are. And
that's because you were doing what?
I was just falling asleep on the job, didn't know how to work the phones, like nervous in like a office setting. Like I was hungover all the time. And then I got a call from the Tonight Show at 11 a.m. and I was like, hello. And they were like, Nikki, it's Ross Mark from the Tonight Show. And I was like, hi. And he's like, Paul Abdul dropped out today. Is there any chance that you can do the show? And I'm like, yeah. I said yes. I'm instantly start like getting ready. I don't know when this is happening, what this even looks like. And I just, I hang up the phone. I don't remember the set that they approved because it's on a DVD that I totally forgot about. I mean, it's been 2 years since they approved that set. And so I go and get my hair done. I go to Urban Outfitters and I'm like, I'm gonna be on the Tonight Show, which did not impress the girl that I thought it was gonna impress. I thought she was gonna be like, oh my God, let's find the funnest outfit for you. But I just bought an outfit that she was just like, I guess that mannequin over there, just like get your size in that. And I was like, okay, thanks for nothing. I remember racing home because the car service was gonna be there. I see this like black car outside of my apartment. I'm like, what is it? Like, it was just all so new to me and I ran inside and I'm like, I gotta get this DVD. I didn't have a laptop at the time because it broke and I couldn't afford a new one. I grabbed my roommate's laptop and then I'm searching through the DVDs, like throwing them, and then I see it, Comedy Magic Club, like Leno set. And I'm like, yes. And so I get in the car. I live in Studio City, which is a mile and a half from Burbank, the studios. I have a mile and a half. I literally have 5.5 minutes to watch this 5.5 minute set and memorize it. So I'm in the back of this car watching it and going, okay, this joke is. And then I get out of the car and the second I get on the lot and open the door, both the bookers are there being like, can you do the set? We don't remember it. And I'm like, got it for you. And I just said it and they were like, that's great. And I'm like, they have no clue how close I was to not knowing this. And the funniest thing about all of this is that I did a rape joke in that set on The Tonight Show in 2009, which is unheard. I mean, like, I couldn't get away with doing that maybe on Comedy Central right now, like with the way things are. And you think things get like looser, but they certainly don't. I mean, my joke was, I was young at the time, so I could be like, oh, when I was in college, I dated a frat guy and all my friends were like, don't date them. They're all douchebags. And I was like, no, he was different because he waited till like the third date to lean in and rape me. It's a great joke. And it's not a joke about rape victims. It's just a rape joke, but it is a rape joke that I did on The Tonight Show. And it kind of, I can't believe they let that slide.
Why do you work so much?
I think I work so much because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel accomplished. I can't enjoy my leisure time unless I think I like to work so much, and I've given this a lot of thought. I've done a lot of work on this question, actually.
And what does that mean?
I'm just making a joke of I like to work so much that I've even worked on this question. But
I thought you were talking about therapy or something.
Stick with me.
Okay, wait, and I'll jump in. You did say My core belief is that I can only rest or feel good if I've suffered first.
Yes. So I believe that I got trickle-down Catholicism from my parents of like guilt, too much pleasure is like bad. And so for me to feel pleasure, I have to have suffered on one side of it. And I prefer to suffer first so that I can really enjoy it and not dread it.
How much time off do you take a year?
I don't even know what that means because I consider time off like, you know, napping all day or like going on, you know, I take trips with my girlfriends. I go, that's pretty much all the only trips I take.
But even if you took a month of vacation time, you work so
No.
many weekends that it like...
A month vacation time is no. What am I, a teacher? No. But even teachers can't even have that. Like, this is what I don't get about work, Graham, this is what I don't get about leisure time, is that people go, Nikki, you need a break. And I go, do you know what that means to me? That means I would have to like, reorganize my cabinets. Or like, when my friends take breaks, they like are like, I like to go shopping and I'm gonna paint the bathroom or I'm gonna work on this craft project. That sounds like hell to me. Not that I don't.
go cycling in Iceland or...
Yeah, like doing something, they all wanna go hiking when they're on breaks. That doesn't sound fun to me. My breaks, if I was really being leisure, it's like being alone, being quiet, watching TV, napping, playing guitar, singing. Like it's, and it would only be so long that I could do that without feeling like, come on, you gotta go it's not even about making money. You gotta go suffer a little bit to enjoy, to take this much time off.
On the money front, the money's presumably changed a lot over the past couple of years as well, right? What's that been like?
It has been amazing because it's been, obviously it's great to be able to not worry about anything anymore. Like, I don't understand why anyone wants to get richer than what I am right now. There's no need. I'm telling you right now, there's no need for anyone to have any more money than I have. You don't need more space than an apartment this size. If I do, it's because I have too much stuff and I don't need that much stuff. There's no need for any more. The ability to get Postmates any night I want and never have to cook, that is what I want, like financially. And that was the goal, is to like, I want to be able to help out my friends if they get into financial straits, or my family, or if a medical expense comes up. I don't want anyone in my loved ones to stress about the cost of the treatment, because I just know that stress causes death. So it's like, I kind of work and store money so that if someone in my life gets sick, I can be like, don't worry, just chill, and make them everyone stay alive forever. So it's really about that.
Financial goals for yourself?
No, ew, no.
Oh, come on.
I don't. Honestly, Grant, I'm not joking you, and I probably shouldn't say this because my business manager would not like it, but I don't know how much money I have in even a ballpark. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know it's more than I ever thought I could have. I know it's enough that I could probably be fine for a really long time, but I also know there's so much more to be made for me right now, and that's also like, get it all while you can, because you're gonna age. But I don't like looking at money. It makes me nervous.
It is crazy though how quickly that changes, in terms of like, you go from like grinding for so long, barely being able to make a buck.
But I wasn't doing it for the money.
Right. But then once you achieve a certain level of success, it just starts coming.
The amount of money that I have the ability to make right now doesn't seem fair, and so I'm glad it's in my hands, because I'm pretty generous with it. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I just feel like everyone should be, if you have this much money. Like, it's stupid. And the reason I make a lot of money is because I am good at something that just so happens to give you crazy amounts of money for the same amount of work that other people do. You know, like, I just got lucky. I don't deserve this much money. I just got lucky that I happen to love a thing that is in a business where you get lots of money.
How about long-term professional goals?
I've never really had them, to be honest with you. There was a point where I keep auditioning for scripted shows. What am I doing? I don't even watch scripted shows. They bore me, they're fake. I like reality. I wrote my agents one day being like, I want to get in reality. And so that's what set that in motion to do FBoy Island. It's the best job I've ever had. I just get to react. There's no plan, there's no script. There's someone in my ear telling me jokes that we've maybe written before, but it's so on the fly. It's so much like stand-up. I don't like waiting around on set, memorizing lines, rewriting scripts.
You had
It's
a couple good
heaven.
catchphrases on.
Yeah, like F-boy, F-bi, nice guy, nice try. Like that came to be literally hours before our first elimination ceremony. I was like, I don't have a phrase. I don't have like a, you're fired, or like, pack your knives and go, or the tribe has spoken. You need that. No one was around, so it's like me and Andrew, my podcast co-host, who I had come be my writer to be down there with me. We're just brainstorming and we're like, what could I say to these guys? And we went through a lot of things, but we landed on F-boy, F-bi, and nice guy, nice try.
Did you really think they wanted you to be one of the 3 women?
Yes.
When they first contacted you?
Well, when I first got asked to do FBoy Island, my friend Elon Gale, who created the show, he is a reality TV show guru. He's the reason the show is so great. He was like, hey, I'm doing this show called FBoy Island, and I think, I talked to HBO about it, and I think you would be great for it. So there's 3 girls, there's 30 guys, 15 are F-boys, 15 are nice guys. The girls don't know, and I'm like, I am so excited to do this. I thought he was booking me to be one of the girls. Like, I thought I was gonna have my Bachelorette moment. Like, I always secretly wanted to be on The Bachelorette, because like I'm more comfortable dating on camera than off camera. And it's not because I'm a faker, I'm a realer version of myself. I find dating to be excruciating. I find it to be just a waste of my time. But if I can combine it with also making a show, and I remember reacting like, oh my God, Elon, yes. And he was like, I just think as a host, you would kill this. And I was like, yeah, oh, like hosting, like it was one of those moments where I had to be like, yeah, I could do that too, and kind of
Yeah, but I mean,
swallow it.
that's way better for the career, obviously.
Obviously.
But what was cool about that show too is it seemed like HBO like really wanted you.
FBoy Island was the first time in my career that I did not have to convince them to take me. They wanted me just as much as I wanted them. It was like actually a perfect example of the kind of romantic relationship that I was seeking at the time, of like someone who loves me as much as I love them. It's not an imbalance, because I feel like in Hollywood, you're constantly trying to like convince people you're good enough. They never gave a note on my performance. They let me be me, to the point where I thought it was like probably negligence on their part. Like you guys should stop me from saying some of this stuff. Like that's how free they let me be. And it allowed me to find who I am in a weird way.
So you genuinely want to be a professional musician now?
Yes. It's embarrassing to say.
When did that start to become a thing?
8th grade. I always wanted to be a singer-songwriter, like pop star. I don't think I ever admitted to myself, because no one, when I was a kid, was like, you've got something. And that's what you need to like keep that dream going into high school. And I just never got that feedback. And then certainly once I got to high school, was auditioning for plays and singing and in a cappella choir. I just wasn't as good as everyone else. I remember the first time that I got asked seriously as a young adult, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I had to give it some thought. I remember writing down singer-songwriter, and I didn't even know what that was. I'd never written a song or anything. And I remember Mr. Herrig was like, stay after class, and I want to talk to you about it. And he was like, do you really want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And he was like, have you written anything? And I was like, I haven't. And he gave me all these CDs. He gave me like Amy Mann and Elvis Costello and all this stuff. I remember it was the first time, I didn't remember that until a couple years ago when I started wanting to do it again. And I was like, oh, I did want to do this forever. It was the dream. I want to move people the same way music moves me. Comedy definitely is a huge part of my life, but if I had to give up comedy or music, consuming, like, I'm talking all TV shows, anything laughter or music, I would easily give up comedy first.
So what's the likelihood you get to a place in the not too distant future where music consumes the majority of your professional endeavors?
I don't have kids. I don't think I want kids. And so I'm kind of like, what if I finance my dumb little dream like I'm my own kid, so I can start over? You're gonna look stupid. But I was on Dancing with the Stars and I got voted off first. So that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it's the most humiliating thing that has ever happened to me, ever will happen to me.
You said it was the worst day of your...
It was the worst day of my career.
Honestly.
Yeah, it was the worst feeling I've ever had. Ultimately the best.
Yeah.
Really, because it taught me that if I can survive that embarrassment and no one cares and it doesn't affect my life, if I could get through that, then I can do anything. Like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Embarrass yourself.
Okay, so what are the plans then to really attack this full force?
I think I want to create a different name, like a different version of myself, like a, Sasha Fierce, Ziggy Stardust.
Why?
I don't know. I bought some wigs on Amazon. I don't know. I'm going to try out, because for me, singing and songwriting is really tough, or songwriting is tough, because it's so sincere, it's embarrassing, it's poetry. I write jokes. Like, I'm always going to win with a joke because I have the upper hand. I have the final say. A song is so vulnerable. It freaks me out. I cannot write songs as Nikki Glaser. It makes me cringe. It makes other people cringe. I'm gonna get made fun of regardless, but I think for me to be as comfortable with myself to pursue this, I'm going to have to create a new persona. Like, I'm transitioning to a singer. I'm gonna create a new identity.
Is there a point in the not too distant future where you're gonna stop everything on the comedy front?
No, I think I'll always do comedy. And the great thing is that when you become a singer-songwriter, whenever I go see bands, I love when they talk in between songs. Everything they say is funny. But I would like to become a famous singer-songwriter without anyone knowing it's me. And then after I achieve success in that way, be like, and it was me the whole time. Because I feel like any success I achieve in any other way is going to be on the heels of the nepotism of my own self. It shouldn't happen right away. For those songs to be good enough for me to travel around to the kind of theaters I'm doing now, people would be wrong to go see that, because I'm going to be bad. You cannot be good at something when you start out. So I am giving myself 7 years to win a Grammy or be invited to the Grammys. Let me just aim low. And I might give up on this dream right away, but my plan is to train with a vocal coach all the time, every day, to just be the best singer I can be, because I have an instrument. I just always thought my voice was my voice, and you either got it or you don't. But now I know that your voice is an instrument that you can learn how to play.
What was your reaction when you were in Taylor Swift's Miss Americana trailer?
That was one of the worst feelings ever, was hearing my voice being catty about her, because I just knew it was my voice, even though all my friends were like, you would never say that about her, you love her. It was all based on jealousy, and it was also an example of me forgetting that she's a person. And I struggle with this too, where people online, I'll be on Reddit, on the Conan subreddit, and I will see someone being mean about my episode, and I'm just there as a fan trying to read about my favorite Conan episodes, and then all of a sudden someone's like, Nikki Glaser's was the worst. I don't read comments ever on YouTube, Facebook. I don't even read Instagram comments anymore. And I imagine it would be tough to be Taylor Swift, where you turn on the TV and you're watching your favorite show or you're listening to your favorite podcast, and you're like, there's a huge chance they're gonna talk about me and make fun of me. And it ruins it for you. And Taylor Swift was ruined for me after my voice was used in her thing, because I said, this means she's seen this. I've probably actually hurt her feelings, and it felt horrible.
I know you posted something on Instagram that she responded to, but did you DM her?
No, I don't want to bother her. At first I reached out to my agents and I said, I need to write her an apology. Could you get this to her? And they said, we don't want to poke this. We know that her camp is powerful, and we don't want to upset this, and Swifties are brutal. I'm a Swiftie, and I wanted to dox myself for what I said to Taylor Swift. So I said the only way that I'm gonna get to reach her is if I post something, and I know that she's active on these sites and does, so she'll maybe see it. And she did. And then 7 hours later, I was on a date, and my phone, I was trying not to look at my phone to be more present or whatever during the date, and then I looked at one point, and it was just more text than if your mom passes away tragically. It was just oh my God, who died? And it was, Taylor had commented on the Instagram post and forgiven me. And I only read it once. I'll never read it again. I didn't want to go back to it. I didn't DM her. I want to respect her time. I don't even want to meet her. I don't want to be friends with her, because I don't want to take any energy from her that she could put into writing songs that make me feel that changed my life.
And as much as it almost sounds like a joke what you're saying, you've said before, her music is a key part of your mental health regimen.
Yes.
And then also music in general, I think saved your life when you were younger.
Yeah, I hate to be one of these people that's I like music more than most people, because who doesn't like music? some people don't, and that's a real sign to like run. If you don't like everyone likes music. It's like,
I mean, not as much as it seems like you do, though.
yeah, I think I do like it a little bit more, but I hate to be like, I love music because it sounds like one of those guys on Tinder that's like, I love whiskey and tacos, and you're like, who doesn't? Like, get a personality. So, but I was so obsessed with Dave Matthews Band. I was so obsessed with Britney Spears, like the Beatles. I went to another level of obsession of needing to know every single thing, every fact. I think it makes me, I'm a little bit on the spectrum in that way of like, I really intensely get obsessed with things. And music though, yeah, I mean, Taylor Swift's music has completely changed my life. And then I'll add like, you know, many other artists to that too. I mean, it's constantly evolving. She's introducing me to other people. Like Wilco has changed my life in many ways. Dave Matthews Band, like, you know, Phoebe Bridgers now, like I'm getting into, but I get really intensely into artists and like if I'm not listening to music, there's a problem. Like I just went through a depression, like last week I had 5 days after I guest hosted Kimmel where it just like, I don't know if it was like the high of guest hosting Kimmel and then right afterwards, the come down. Like it almost felt like the way people describe doing Molly, like, the days after like are brutal. But I was so depressed, and for no reason either.
So tell about wetting the bed in 3rd grade and how that led to the first time you thinking about taking your own life.
Yeah, I mean, my brain is just messed up in that way because it shouldn't occur to a child to kill themselves. But yeah, I think the first time I thought about killing myself was I wet the bed. I was a bedwetter until 4th grade. And I once wet the bed at who I thought was my friend's house. And I didn't really have that many friends in 3rd grade. I just changed schools and was sleeping in her sister's bed and I wet it. That Monday during show and tell, one of the girls that was there raised her hand and was like, Nikki, wet the bed this weekend. That was her tell because she forgot to bring something. I just was having dark thoughts already, but I think the first time was like when I went to 4th grade, I was so scared that's because 4th grade is when girls started liking boys started kind of being in the periphery, and I was like, if boys found out I wet the bed, if this somehow travels to another classroom and makes it to 4th grade with me, and makes it to 5th grade and then middle school, like, I'll have to kill myself. And I remember like having the thought of like, man, I don't want to, but I will have to. No one talks about it because they are scared they're gonna alarm everyone they know, but there are lots of people that think about killing themselves like a lot. Usually I'm like sleeping a lot when I'm depressed. And something that I do to lull myself to sleep is like think about killing myself. But there's sometimes that it feels like a warm blanket. And I don't know how to describe that. And I'll never do it because I've lost people to suicide. And like specifically I have one best friend who has lost 2 really close friends to suicide. And I could never do that to her. Like she's one of the reasons like I can never even take the next step in thinking of like, but what would I, you know, these are all fantasies, but.
I mean, but when you're in that, like what specifically do you think about?
Usually very violent. I mean, I think about every single way that you could think of. And that's the scary part is that as I've gotten older, it used to just be one way, which I could never do because I'm never gonna own a gun. I don't like guns, I hate them. But so it was always that. But now it's more like, it's getting more like, oh, I could jump off that. And I'm like, whoa, never had that one before. So they're just intrusive thoughts. They're just as intrusive as any kind of thought you have that you go, I'm not gonna act on that. I'm gonna keep that to myself. Like I could push that woman in front of that car right now. Like that kind of thing. I have a joke about it, but the thing that I always come back to is like when I'm depressed, it's usually my house is a mess. I'm not taking care of myself. And so I'm too embarrassed to like, oh my God, what if like EMTs show up and see that like my underwear has a spray tan and they think it's like diarrhea or something. Like those are the things that I go, I'm so depressed, I can't clean up. I'm not gonna leave my mom this mess to take care of. Like that makes me wanna kill myself, is thinking about my mom like going through my stuff and being like, she's mourning the loss of me and she has to clean up. So like, I hate to be funny about it, but those are the kind of thing like I'm gonna stick around for other people. I share things that people don't normally share, and thank God I can. Like I think that's another reason I'm alive is because I found a way to share these really, really dark thoughts, and thus I get a ton of people writing me being like, oh my God, I have that too, and then I don't feel so alone. I'm sure my mom's gonna watch this and be like, why is she saying that HBO's not gonna wanna hire her if she's gonna kill herself? They're not gonna give her a show, she's gonna kill herself. It's like, no, I think this is why I won't, is because I get to talk about it, and it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but showing vulnerability is a positive thing, and especially when you're somebody of stature, speaking about, you know, moments where they aren't the best, people can identify.
I could have used Anderson sharing some suicidal thoughts back in the day.
What got you on the other side of it?
Honestly, medication, meditation, and waiting it out, knowing that it's not gonna last forever. But that's the scary part, is that when it goes on for a couple days, you start going, this is the real way it is. And I don't wanna feel better because I know the truth and everyone else is blinded to the truth. So I rely on my friends who I trust to be like, hey, you're sounding of concern right now. And like, can I recommend some things that I've heard in the past have gotten you out of this? Do you wanna maybe take your meds today? And I struggle with meds because they make me feel so good that I feel like Lance Armstrong. I feel like I'm doping. It makes me feel guilty. It makes me feel like, well, I'm cheating, because you should not be able to feel this good and feel this like hopeful. It must be a lie. You must be doing something wrong. So there is a med I can take that instantly snaps me out of it, but sometimes I just feel too guilty using it.
Yeah, but maybe you're feeling how you're supposed
That's what my
to
doctor
feel
says.
if you didn't have the
He's like, this is the way
chemical
people
imbalance,
feel.
yeah.
And I go, this? Like the first time I drank, it was the best feeling in the world. And I was like, why doesn't everyone do this all the time? And then it led to me drinking all the time. And obviously that wasn't good. So I don't trust when things feel too good. And I feel like you're being an addict and you're abusing them. So I just struggle with it. But I think after this last bout of depression, I can't mess around with it anymore. And I have to stay on meds. I would rather have the negative side effects of feeling guilty, or, you know, sometimes the meds make me want to smoke pot to like come down from it. And I don't like to smoke pot. But if that's what's gotta be, so I don't want to kill myself, then that's the lesser of two evils there.
And you've earned the right to be happy, you know?
Yeah, I guess. That sounds, yeah. I think I have, but there's just something about happiness that feels like I get happy when I've earned things. Mm-hmm. And so when you stop having to earn them, the happiness kind of goes away from me. Like, I enjoy things that I've like worked for. I was always the last one in my family to open gifts on Christmas. I wanted to wait to the last second, because Christmas Day was really actually a very depressing day for me growing up, because it's so much fun. The anticipation. Christmas Eve is my favorite day of the year. May 31st is my other favorite day of the year, because it's the day before my birthday. My birthday, it's like, no, it's over. I mean, everything in my life, I love the build up, hate when it's over.
Senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Explain how stuff started to spiral out of
Senior
control.
year of high school, my best friend since 4th grade, a guy killed himself over her rejecting him romantically.
You were upset with him.
Yeah, I was really upset with him. Like, because my friend, who was like the most bubbly, energetic, I mean, it just stole her from me. I was mad at him, but I also was very sad, and it was extremely tragic because I knew him, and then it turned into an eating disorder is what happened within 2 months. I just stopped eating. My body was changing, and I also started liking boys a lot more at this age, and so I was just also scared of boys, so I was like putting on weight so that they wouldn't like me. I mean, there's a lot of things going on, but I wanted them to like me so bad. I wanted to be thin, didn't know how. Then by March, a boy that I had liked asked me to prom. And I was so nervous about it and excited that I just didn't eat because I was nervous. And the next day I went to school and someone was like, you look great. What are you doing? And I was like, I didn't eat yesterday, and I'm still kind of like not feeling like eating because I'm so excited about this guy. So I just was like, I'll just keep going. And then it was just like, I didn't eat for so long. It was just, then it just took off.
You lost 60 pounds in 4 months?
I was probably like $150 going into it. And then I got down to like 98 was the last time I checked, would avoid scales because it was just so embarrassing. At that point, when you're getting weighed at that level, your parents are mad at you. The only way I've been able to kind of make it make sense is like if someone were to hand you a glass of poison and be like, drink that. Like, it feels like you will be doing something that will make you so deeply uncomfortable in your body, like it will make you crazy. It'll ruin your life. It's worse than death for whatever reason. It just becomes about control, really. And I think that's what suicide also, as I'm talking to you, I'm realizing that suicide, I think, ultimately everyone's biggest fear is death. We all know that, even if you say it isn't. We're all scared of dying. It sucks. We don't like to think about it. You humanly can't even think about it for more than 20 seconds. I think they've proven, because the human mind can't just handle it. I think suicide, for me, I'm a control freak. It's control. I get to decide when I die. So there's something of that in it too. But anorexia is all about control and suicide. It's a slow suicide. And
I was talking to your sister Lauren, and she said, her and your parents almost didn't catch it in time, lost you.
Yes. Yeah, I almost died.
What was kind of the worst period from that?
They didn't catch it. It was very obvious. I mean, I looked insane. I mean, the school district was calling home. My friends weren't talking to me anymore. All their parents were calling my parents. But I was so good at lying, pretending it was a diet, pretending like everything was fine, that for whatever reason, and it was too much for them to like think that their daughter like had anorexia. Like that doesn't happen to their daughter. Like, so I just think they were in denial and didn't do anything about it. The worst was when I got hospitalized because I went in for a routine. I was going away to school. I was hoping to go away to the University of Colorado. July, I'm going in for a physical so I can go to school, just routine. And then my pulse is too low and they won't let me leave. And they're like, well, we know she's about to die. And so if she does, it's on us. So she can't leave. And my mom was like, what do you mean? Like, she's gonna be taken to a psychiatric ward on like a psychiatric center on campus. And I'm just like, what are you like, it was just so confusing. But I was also in that moment kind of like, like someone's like taking this out of my hands because I'm gonna die. Like there's no other way out of this. I don't know what to do.
And you felt that way at the time?
Oh yeah, I was hoping to because I don't know if you've ever been
die.
hungry, but it's hell. It's like you don't wanna do anything. I had no friends, I didn't wanna hang out, I had no energy, I would just sleep all day. I was hungry all the time. All I thought about was food, all I watched was the Food Network. Like I was obsessed with food, couldn't eat it. It's hell. And so every time I would fall asleep, towards the end, I would just pray that I wouldn't wake up because it was just like, there's just no out. It's like it's a death sentence. And so I was just like, let me die in my sleep. I don't want to keep staying in this prison.
And it would have like negative side effects to you, like physically, right? Like
yeah, I mean, my bones were cracking constantly. Like I would like squat down and my legs would have no fat here. So my bone would like overextend and like I was cold all the time. I was completely sexually unattracted to anyone and unattractive to anyone. So I was like of concern. No one wanted to be my friend. I looked insane. I looked so sick. My hair was falling out. I was so malnourished that like, zits that I would get as like acne, I would like, and I was like, I had anxiety. So I'd pick and I would have like these open sores. I mean, I'm at college. I'm supposed to be like hooking up with boys, meeting boys. I like boys, but like, I can't hook up with them. Like I'm frightening without clothes on. But thankfully, because I went to school and had to make friends looking like a skeleton, I had to like develop personality pretty quick. That was like, big, larger than life.
And you would go through these then binge eating.
Well, that turned into that
too,
later
right?
when I started eating. Never thought I'd have another eating disorder. Looked down on bulimics, like they're so gross. Like they eat, but they have to like throw up. Gross. I'm better than that. And I remember one of my like specialists saying, all of these are connected. You'll probably have each of them if you don't find treatment. And I was like, never will I ever eat too much. Yeah, right. And ultimately, that's what it turns into. I mean, I have had every single eating disorder. So I recovered from anorexia. I start eating again, I start gaining weight, and then I can't stop eating because then it becomes like an obsession with food on the other side. And so I'm finally nourishing myself. My body thinks it's like in starvation mode because it was. I eat too much, gotta do something with this, either exercise it off or, throw up. And so I did that for a while. Throwing up was bad for my throat, and I would get like bad acne around my chin and mouth. So it was like doing TV, I was like, I'm too vain to keep throwing up. And it just was a pain in the ass. And I just was worried about my, gums rotting. So I stopped doing that. And then I was like, okay, I'll just binge. And then I will, because I couldn't help binging. You just do it. Like, I can't describe why you do it. I mean, so many people do it. And then I would exercise.
But you'd have like, did get this correctly, like 17 protein bars in a night?
I could do that right now. Like I can consume insane amounts of food, like Joey Chestnut, like 4th of July levels of food in one sitting. And so can most people who have a binge eating disorder, they just don't talk about it. It's like the amounts of food it's disgusting. It's weird food. Like it's gross. And but I could manage it because I would eat all day. And then there was this thing that came about called intermittent fasting, and everyone was doing that. So then I could now, if someone asked me to go get lunch, I could go, I'm intermittent fasting. I can still go to lunch, but I'm not eating. And it's not because I have an eating disorder. It's because I'm doing this diet that everyone is on, and it makes me a better person. And it's really how the cavemen used to, you have this whole backup for it. And so intermittent fasting became the thing that I said that I was doing. And then then I realized like I would have like my one meal a day and it wouldn't stop, and it would just be all night long, and I would go to sleep and then I would wake up and I'd go eat more. And protein bars are a common thing that people binge on because it's like a certain amount, you could like see the amount, there's like, you can find your kind, like people with eating disorders have weird like foods that they're into. And so I would just like, I had one thing that I like really loved and I would switch every, now and again. But, and then the next day I would just, every morning just go, I can't eat again until 8 o'clock last night. Then I'm just cleaning up all of the wrappers, counting how many I went through the night before, being like, oh my God, this is so bad. And then I knew it was gonna be something I had to get a handle on. It was like this looming thing that a couple of my close friends knew that I could tell them because they have similar issues. But, I was looking for a boyfriend at the time. I was like, this was 2018, I was like killing it. No one would have ever known that the secret thing was going on. And I was in denial of it. But then when COVID hit and I was like at my parents' house doing the same behaviors, it was about 2 days into that where I was like, I don't have a boyfriend because there's food in my bed. Like no one can come in my room because I have stashed wrappers everywhere, and like I'm just like, I'm not treating myself well. I can't go on a date because I can't go to dinner with anyone because I'm worried about I ate too much last night and I'm gonna be like, this is holding me back from so much. And so it just clicked of like, I'm glad I can live with my parents at the age of 36, and that is something I want to do, and they're nice and cool. But the reason this is happening is because I don't have a partner. I am not okay on my own. And that reason is because I have an eating disorder and no one can get close to me, and I can't get close to myself. And so that's what made me go, okay, let me try to find a way out of this in a real way that isn't like, oh, let me turn it into another disorder. And it's, it comes and goes, but definitely April of 2020 was like the last time I like abused food in a way that was like, oh boy, I'm not perfect now, but it does not consume my life. I eat 3 meals a day no matter what. I don't get to skip meals. And I don't chew gum because gum was another thing for me that like became a substitute to food. Like, the same way for cigarettes, like chew gum, it's like gives you something to do that's like you're consuming. And I like a smoker, I would be like 2 packs a day of gum.
What got you on the other side of it?
Well, I don't want to say specifically, but just like reaching out for help, like finding a program, like a recovery program, and like committing to it, and then finding out what recovery from an eating disorder looks like, because I cannot skip meals. Then my body goes like, ooh, someone might have lost a little weight right now. Why don't you keep going, see how far you can push this? So now the voice in my head is like, you failed us if you skip a meal. Now it's the other side of things of like, now my challenge is like, I have to do the thing I don't want to do. The hard thing for me now is to eat. And so every day I'm like, yeah, did a hard thing. And so I flipped it.
So what's the deal with you and the boyfriend?
My boyfriend and I have been, off and on for 9 years, which is an insane amount of time. It was, we met in New York. I had a show on MTV. It was my first TV show. And he was a producer on the show. And he was from St. Louis, where I was from. I just quit drinking like a year before that. And I didn't want to have any relationships with people who were heavy drinkers. And so when I met him, I thought he was cute, but he just seemed too fun. It was like a party that we all met each other at, and he was like dancing, and he was just like too fun and smiling. I was like, that guy's wasted, because how could you be that way? And so I just wrote him off. I was like, no, not for me. And then I found out he didn't drink, and I was like, oh, he's just like fun and like that. And then I fell in love from afar. Like I just had a crush from afar for a really long time, which was so fun, because I was just like pining for him constantly. It was like very Jim and Pam. I was Jim. And he had no idea. And he was my first real boyfriend. And then we did a reality show together, and they show up, and I'm like, I know this guy doesn't want to be on TV. Like, he's behind the scenes. He's a TV producer. And I said, listen, I sold the show as like a dating show. We weren't together. We're kind of together now. I do have to date on the show. I kind of want to date someone who will be on camera with me. So I'll keep seeing you like in private, but like I have to date on this show unless you want to be on camera. And he was like, no, I'll do it. And then that was like another turning point of like, this guy does not like to be on camera, and he's doing this thing because he loves me and he wants to like share a thing together. So it was just all of these things of like, then I started doing things that were hard for me to do, like, making time for him.
You guys broken up and gotten back together a lot, most recently last month, right?
Last month.
Like, what's going on
So
there?
funny. Well, last month was like a do or die situation where it was like, what are we doing? Like, is this leading to marriage? We never talk about marriage. We both signed on 9 years ago as people who didn't want to get married, didn't want to have kids, but now he's in his 40s, I'm in my late 30s. What are we doing? And our priorities have changed, our like goals have changed. And I don't want to get into the details of it, but it just, I have a fear of commitment. I'm the one.
Oh, it's you.
I'm the one.
When you've historically had a fear of commitment.
I didn't know I did. I thought I was always chasing guys and being like, why doesn't anyone want to commit to me? But it was me.
There are a couple people very close to you that don't think you guys are a good fit for each other. How do you handle that?
They don't get it. They're not in it. I don't know what will happen. I may look back on this interview and be like, oh my God, you thought he was the one. But I actually think that that's okay because I actually feel like now he is the one. And that's great. Like, I don't know, it's nice to admit that, but I don't know, he might be dead in Iceland right now. This relationship has been like my career. Like, I've had to give up on certain things. I thought it was dead for a while, and then it came back, and it just shows, I didn't know you can change a man, but you can. After I saw my reality show, I was very appreciative of my boyfriend because I saw a side of myself that was like, she's a lot, like almost being like to him, like, run, dude. Like, it is very hard to date me. I am an open book. I am pornographic in what I say. I mean, I'm not someone that, bringing me around to your family, like, based on the things I've described doing that sex acts, I'm basically a porn star. And, like, I feel that way sometimes. Like, I've described my sex life in such detail that if you are a blind person, it's no different than someone describing a porn they're watching. So I am pornographic in many ways, and that can be not the easiest thing to bring home to mom, but my boyfriend does not care.
You still a proponent of non-monogamy?
Yeah, not for myself. I think it's
But it was something for yourself, or for the person you were dating,
I'm a weirdo,
right?
and I like my boyfriend to at least entertain the idea of being with other women or be with them. I think it's about like, I want to be on HBO Max because people watch HBO Max. It's a cool network. I want my show on a place that is a cool, shiny, like, I want things that other people want.
Would you be cool with him sleeping with somebody else right now?
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to be with her, no. Then go be with her. Like, don't be with me. It'd be like if I was like cooked him a meal every night and someone else made him a meal. I wouldn't be like, another person cooked you. Like, that's how I look at sex. Whereas, like, he likes my cooking the best, and part of my cooking is dependent on him trying other things so that I can try them for him.
You don't think it would hurt you?
No, I know it wouldn't, if you want to be honest. In the past, we've experimented with this because I had these feelings of like, I wouldn't mind if you like had a little fling with someone else, not like emotional. That seems like.
Well, you found it like attractive, right?
Yeah,
or, like,
I want things
on.
that, yeah, like even if she's hotter than me or like looks different than me, like I don't really care what she looks like. I like it. He's a hot guy. I'm like, yeah, check this out. Like, it's like lending your friend your sweater or something. I'm not doing this with my friends, but it's like, have fun in it for the night, but give it back to me, don't stretch it out or whatever. Like, everyone has their own kinky thing. My thing is, I don't mind that. And does he go through with it? No, but like, could he? Yes. Is it a two-way street of like, I can do anything? No, because I don't really want to. That's not my thing. And who knows? It might be my thing someday. I'm a very like open person to anything that might come about. But yeah, that's my kind of take on non-monogamy, I guess.
Think you'll ever drink again?
I don't think I'll ever drink again. I have no plan on it. You know, there are times where I go, I could probably have one, but I just don't want to risk it. I can dance now without it. I can have sex without, like I used to drink because I was nervous to be around people. I don't need that anymore. I don't have social anxiety in that way. It used to facilitate things for me that I don't need it for anymore. But then there's things like pot that I'm like, oh, I give that up, and then I go back to that because that facilitates things for me that I haven't found other ways to do it sometimes.
How did your life change?
I mean, then my eating disorders cranked up because it just like jumps to another thing. But for me, that was a better thing to be abusing at that time than alcohol. Alcohol was like, I was gonna get a DUI, which was gonna financially destroy me and potentially physically destroy me or others. Like, it was just, my relationships were based on drinking. It was the only way I could have sex because I was scared of sex. And so I would get blackout drunk, I would hook up with people, and then the second I would have to have sober sex because God forbid it was like the bars were closed or we couldn't get booze, and then I'm like, oh yeah, let's do it. And I'm like having sex with someone, I'm like, I hate this, but I have to go through with it because if I don't, then I'm an alcoholic. It was leading me to be in all these situations, you know, waking up in the morning being like, who did I meet last night? What did I say? Making friendships with girls that I would see them the next day and they'd be like, thank you so much for talking me into getting that abortion. I'd be like, what? I don't even know who you are. Like I would have like, because I was such a lucid drunk, I would get blackout drunk and no one would know I was drunk. So I'd stop telling people stories because I just figured I'm probably gonna have told them when I'm drunk.
What role, if any, did JD's death play in it?
My cousin died at the age of 30 and he was a couple years older than me from alcohol consumption. He was so young and he was my best friend growing up.
You guys were like as close as it.
As close as you can get, like my brother. But then it'd been many years of us not being close. And then I get word that he is like not doing well and he can't keep a job and he just stays inside all day and smoking and drinking. And like, you know, I wrote him a couple emails being like, JD, like, come on, like snap out of this. Like, I think I had quit drinking at this point. And so I was like, here's a book, you can do this. And then he just died one day. And I think it was, whether or not it was JD, it's like all of the alcoholism that is in my family and in, you know, my friends and just everywhere. I just saw I saw a continuum that I was on that was going to end like that. Maybe not now, as quick as it happened to JD, but that's like, it's a progressive illness, alcoholism. And so I just knew that no one wants to start out being like a sloppy alcoholic that's in bed all day drinking or whatever, but like, it doesn't start out that way. It starts out like fun, drinking, party, but it eventually gets there. And I just saw like, it will get there for me. And I just wanted to cut it off. But I hadn't talked to him in so many years, so I don't think I didn't let myself be sad about it because it was like, you weren't there for him. You could have like saved him. So like, you don't get to be sad now that he's dead because you didn't do anything. So.
But it seems like it bothers you talking about him now.
Yeah, it bothers me because I feel like I couldn't have saved him, but I feel like my family could have. I feel like my family could have adopted him when he was not doing well at a young age. Like he was already like my brother. We spent so much time with him. We'd sometimes talk about it. And like, it just feels like we could have done something. And so I could sometimes get into like, you know, blaming. But now I look at it and I'm like, that was always the way it was gonna go with him. And there was nothing to do about it, but it's just.
What impact do you think your mom's drinking had?
I didn't like who she was when she drinks. I love that she looks forward to it and feels herself and like can let go. I get what it provides for her because I felt it too, but I didn't like seeing this person that I knew and trusted, like this is how they act differently. It used to, I think as a little kid, like just, you know, you see your mom act different, like your mom makes a weird voice and you're like, stop it, Mom, you're being weird. Like, but I do feel like.
How did it affect you back then?
Back then, it just made me embarrassed sometimes, you know, just the way drinking made me embarrassed when like, what did I say last night? Oh, what, you know, it just feels unsafe when your adult guardian gets intoxicated in a way that they start acting like a baby. I mean, that's essentially like drinking makes you stupid. And then you see your parents get kind of stupid and you go, no, you guys have to protect me. You're being stupid right now. But then when I got older and got into therapy, I was able to talk to her about it and be more open about it. And now we have really good boundaries around it. And I have no problem with it anymore. And we've come a long way. I used to be very angry about it.
Did you?
Oh yeah, really angry. Because
why?
Because it's a reason, it's finally you have something like, I'm a weird person. I have intimacy issues with men. I'm bad with money. Like all the things that were wrong with me, I needed a reason why they're bad. My mom drank. That's it. Mom, you're the reason I don't have a boyfriend. You're searching for something that doesn't mean it's your fault. And so I think for a while I was really mad at my mom and like used to blame her. And now I don't have any anger about my mom's drinking. She's managed it amazingly. She's hilarious. She was a great mom. She just gets a little too drunk too fast, which I do too. What
was the thing about her not loving you?
I guess I had it in my head that my mom didn't love me. Maybe it was just something I said, but like she's gonna hate this. I know now my mom loves me so much. I am so obsessed with my mom, I can't even stand it. But I think one of my earliest memories, I'm so sorry, Mom, and maybe I'm inventing it, but I was maybe 4 and I was screaming at my mom having a tantrum and I said, I hate you, like in a 4-year-old screaming. And my mom goes, you know what, Nick? I hate you too. I think that's when my brain was like, start making memories, this is profound. And so I remember my first thought was, wait, you can't say that. Like, I'm allowed to say it to you, but like you just breached the parent-child relationship. I can say crazy shit all I want, but you can't give that back to me. I knew she didn't mean it, but it was still like, whoa, my mom just said she hated me. And then we didn't talk a lot, we didn't share our feelings. Wasn't really a touchy-feely family. So I think I just took all of that as like she didn't love me, because I'd see my friends, like their moms hold hands and stuff, and I'm like, oh, so my mom doesn't. But meanwhile, I had a dad who wanted to hold my hand. Like my dad gave me all of that affection that my mom maybe was a little bit more reluctant to do, but now she gives it to me all the time. Like I just have to ask. My mom goes, you know I didn't hug you because you didn't like being hugged, right? And I was like, oh. And it's the same thing in my relationship with my boyfriend. He's like, I'm not gonna ask about your day if you don't make time to hang out with me. How could I do that? And it's like, if you want the thing that you want, you gotta give it to me first. And I think I forget that with my mom. Like, I was a weird child. I really didn't like being touched. I didn't like certain sensory things. I speculate that I was a little bit on the spectrum, and maybe still am. And at a young age, I like people touching me or getting too close or certain fabrics. I was like a weird kid. So I think my mom was probably just like, okay, don't touch her. You know?
Okay, tell about the therapy session where you had your mom join.
Oh yeah, I mean, that was rough. My anorexia got to a bad place, and we were starting to look for help outside. I think at the very beginning, before I was hospitalized, we went to a couple counselors because it was obvious I had a problem. Let's just go see what's going on with Nikki. And there was this one that kind of got into my not eating and then got into my mom's drinking. My mom came with me, and I remember her saying, like, how do you expect Nikki to start eating if you don't stop drinking? And my mom was like, I'm never gonna stop drinking, which I totally agreed. Like, I'm never gonna start eating. So we were both like on the same page. And I think that she just didn't see the correlation. And I don't even know if she'd see it now. And it's not completely correlated, but it's there. But the reason my mom drinks is because her parents did something. Like, it's no one's fault. And I think that's where, that's where it got mucky for a while, was because the buck stopped at my mom. It was like, your fault. Why did you do this? You weren't responsible at every second of the day. You weren't a perfect mother. You failed. When really, she really was amazing, and maybe had a couple moments where like wasn't the greatest, but who doesn't? And also, considering her childhood and what she came from, and for her to only have that be her problem, triumph. Like, she's amazing. I got the best mom possible out of the situation that she came out of. She's so strong, she's so smart, she's so funny. And I have so many addiction issues. Like, now I look at her drinking and I'm like, oh, I so relate. And now I can like empathize and not be so mad.
Sarah Silverman and Jenny McCarthy influenced you how?
Yeah, Jenny McCarthy, I used to watch with my cousin JD. We used to watch Singled Out, and it was like salacious. Jenny was hot and gross, which were two things I had not seen combined. I think she was the first person that I was like, I can kind of be gross. And I think as a young girl, my theory is when people say women aren't funny, women are as funny as boys, but boys, when they're first learning what funny is, it's poo-poo, and it's dirt, and it's butts, and it's peepees. And boys, when they talk about it, people go, stop that, we don't talk about that. But when girls do it, people are like, no, you are a girl, you do not talk. That's the way I found, like, if I ever said anything sexual or scatological, people would be like, girls do not talk that way, like, you're a bad girl. And so that's why women aren't funny. Our toolbox of what we can joke about is robbed of us at a young age, so we don't learn how to be funny. But Jenny McCarthy was the first one I saw like be kind of like make jokes like a boy, I guess, and was kind of like boyish, but like so desirable, so hot. And yeah, so huge influence. And then Sarah Silverman was the one that you go, she's adorable, she's likable, she's like someone I would want to be friends with, and you can tell she's so freaking smart. It seemed within reach. That was a thing that I go, I think if I work hard enough, I could be something like that. It was the first iteration of like what a female stand-up could be for me. I didn't know what even looked like. So she was the one. She was the goal for a really long time. And much like Jennifer Aniston, who still exists in my mannerisms, like me even doing this is like Sarah Silverman. Like me for so long imitating her because I didn't know who I was, kind of her things rubbed off on me because, I was just so obsessed with her. Still am. I think she's a genius.
How would you remember the first Chappelle show you went to? I think you were in college at the time?
So I'm in college. I'm so skinny. No one wants to be friends with me. I decide I gotta be larger than life. I start being like really funny and just telling funny stories and like wacky. And everyone, suddenly I'm getting compliments like, you should be a stand-up comedian. So I started writing jokes, but I was like, I gotta go see stand-up comedy. And I remember Googling stand-up comedy Denver, and an ad came up for Dave Chappelle. Didn't know who he was. This was 2002, so this is pre-Chappelle show. And I go, I look on IMDb, he's the guy from You've Got Mail. And I was like, I'll go see this movie star. And I was probably the only white person there. And I walked in and it was like, you know, Dave Chappelle block party. There was like, it was music on stage, there were people grinding. It wasn't a comedy show.
What did you learn from Amy Schumer?
One of the funniest people ever and the quickest person I know. Not scared to take chances, and just seeing Amy hold a no. Like I remember the first time of her just telling someone like, no. And I'm waiting for her to be like, I'm so sorry, I can't, like, I'll do it another time. And she was just like no is a sentence. And I learned that from Amy.
Your first time on Conan.
I dodged doing Conan for a while. Like the booker, I recently talked to him, JP Buck, and he was like, you are the only person I had to like really like hunt down to do a set. Like I had to like bother you about it. I didn't want to do it until I was going to be amazing. I could not go in front of Conan and be mediocre. My dad introduced me to Conan O'Brien, his late night show, probably 1998. It was just like, you know, that story of like the tape that changed your life. It was the best. And he shaped my sense of humor so much. I learned so much from him. I continue to. I'm funnier if I listen to Conan O'Brien's podcast. I'm funnier that night. Like it gets me in the right state of mind.
Going on Howard Stern.
Howard Stern, one of the biggest things of my career ever. I mean, I have fans because I've been on Howard Stern. I started listening to his show and I was like, oh my God, this guy is the best. Because I was kind of getting into Howard Stern when he was first getting into therapy, and I heard there was like a possibility of a morning show on Comedy Central's Sirius channel that they were looking for. And so I called them and was like, give this to me, I'm going to be great at it. Like, I know I can do this. And they did. And I was gonna do it in LA, but then I was like, wait, if I did it in New York, would it be at the Sirius studios? And they were like, yeah. And I'd be like, oh, I'll just move to New York. So I moved to New York so I could be on the same floor as Howard and somehow maybe meet him. I don't know, I just want to be close to genius. And it worked out. And it was never my goal to get like on Howard Stern because that is just like too lofty. Howard's not like booking people from publicists. Howard has to ask for you. Like Howard books his show. So I remember I was promoting my Netflix special and Howard requested me and then I got to be a guest on it. I've gone back and done, you know, I've judged penis size competitions. Like I'll do anything for them. I love that show and Howard's just so open and I know I'm going to be good on that show because I'll talk about anything. And I know that's what he likes. So I'm like so interested where he's gonna take me and I've revealed things on there that I never thought I would get into. It's so fun. But yeah, that was huge.
The moment that really set your career in motion, the Last Comic Standing audition.
Yeah, I did Last Comic Standing my senior year of college. I'd been doing stand-up for about a year and a half, like seriously. My friends in Kansas City were all getting together, a group of guys, to go drive to Chicago to audition. And we loaded up this van and we drove to Chicago. And I was not gonna audition. I was just going along for the ride because I just didn't wanna be a fraud. I wasn't ready for this. But we get there and they're like, just audition and like have a different goal. Like your goal isn't to win the show, your goal is to have them say, good job. So I auditioned and I got through the first round. Because I went in, we were standing on the street, like this was like cattle call. Like now on audition, these shows, your agent gets you an audition. Like it's already famous people that have been on TV that are on these shows. But back then, I'm like in the cold in Chicago, like on the street. And I remember going in and like having to like do cardio to like stop shivering so I could perform in a minute. And I go on stage, there's just two guys, the bookers for the Tonight Show, were the judges. And they're just in this empty comedy club during the day. It's so awkward. And you just go up there and you tell some jokes. And I did. And they were like, all right, pretty good, Nikki. So how long have you been doing this? And I think I said 2 years. I lied because it wasn't that. They would go, well, you're a little too new or young for this. And I was just like, you're like, but you're good. And I was like, okay, thanks. And they're like, but it's too soon. And I go, okay, thanks. And I was like, great. That's all I wanted. Like they're right. So I walked off stage and then I heard one of them go, I really liked her. And then the other one goes, I mean, I could be convinced. And it was just to themselves. And I just went back. I was off the stairs and I just went back up on the stairs and grabbed the mic and I go, you want to hear another joke? And they were like, yeah. And I knew they could be convinced. Like I had them, like I needed to tip it. So I told one more joke, which they aired a different joke for the joke that I told. The joke was I was dating this black guy once and we broke up because he hit me. And it wasn't his fault. I just didn't understand his complicated handshake. So that was the joke. And they were like, okay, we'll see you tonight. And I was like, really? So I get to go to the night show and that's in front of an audience and that's all the people that waited in line. There's like 25 people there that get to perform. And then from there, you go to Hollywood. And I was up against like veteran comedians. I mean, it was humiliating. I was like so embarrassed that I knew these guys looked at me like, oh, she's cute and young, that's why she's gonna get through. So I knew I was completely invalidated for having any talent because there's no way I was. And then I did okay, I did well, and I watched it back and I'm like, it's fine, but it's like, it wasn't good. But I had promise and it was a story, and so I got the little red ticket to go to Hollywood. I'm like, I'm going to Hollywood, and then went to the semifinals, and I was still in college, and I flew out there and got eliminated right away, but I still got to perform in like this big theater. And
that was what got your dad?
Yeah, he's so proud of that moment, and my dad does think that I started that trend that you now see in American Idol and, you know, The Voice, all these things where they're like, can I do one more song? You know, these moments, and then they do it and they're like, okay, you're going to Hollywood. I still watch that sometimes and I go, who does this girl think she is? Like, there are moments like that click in for me where I do have that confidence and I do have that like, I think I could do good at this. And those are the really special moments in my career where and I've sat on some of them before. Like I've seen myself in interviews on Conan or where I'm just a little bit nervous. And I don't say the joke I want to make because I'm just nervous it's going to bomb or it's too much or it's just going to create a weird mood. So I just swallow it and I don't say it. It's a lot like jumping into a cold pool or like ripping off a Band-Aid. There's nothing I could have planned for. It's just an impulse that occurs to me and I just either grab it or I don't. And all the times I don't, I always regret. And then some of the times I do, I deeply regret as well.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Painless?
Yeah, oh my God, so easy. Yeah, so good. Thanks for listening to me. It's dark outside. Can we still run?
I know, probably not.
No.